Welcome to Therapy Unlocked. I am Katrina Mondragon, licensed professional counselor, licensed mental health counselor, licensed to practice in the states of Oklahoma and Massachusetts, and I am a professional, but not your professional. And this is my sister.
And that's it.
No.
I'm just your sister. No, I am your unqualified opinion. I am your co-host with Final Girl Energy. I'm Final Girl M. You might know me from TikTok shenanigans or for yapping next to this incredibly intelligent lady right here. So you brought something up during our recording sessions today, and who knows when this will air. But that said, you mentioned something a mutual favorite of ours says, Brene Brown, about people who are candle blower outers. Can you give me just like a brief recap on that one?
Yeah, so she mentions in her book, Atlas of the Heart, the flame blower outers are the ones in your life who, when you have an accomplishment or something big happen, instead of lift you up and say, good job, yay, I'm happy for you, they gotta one-up you or put you down somehow and like put your flame out in some type of way.
Yeah. And so in a clinical perspective, you know, what can that do to someone?
Make them feel like shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't clinical. But
I mean, yes, it can. But I mean, like, what kind of situations develop when you have candle blower outers around you or
well, I imagine you could feel some sorts of shame, making them feel some type of way about themselves not being good enough.
Yeah. Okay. So I have another word for those people. And some people may notice that I often wear this. Some people may call this an oho or an evil eye or a nazar. There's some debate around that one. That said, the idea of this is that it returns kind of that candle blower outer energy. And what I would refer to that as is a monitoring spirit. Have you ever heard that before?
No, enlighten me.
Okay, so a monitoring spirit might be someone who is alive and with you, or it might be someone who's not, in my opinion. But we'll talk about those who are alive and with you here right now, okay? So, and don't you give me that look. People believe there's a man up in the sky that made everything. I'm just saying. But
Some do.
That said, monitoring spirits that you have in your life might say something to you like, hey girl, we haven't talked in a while. How did the divorce go?
A monitoring spirit might say something like that?
Yes. Like maybe someone that you know from a former coworker or someone from school or something like that. They might just hit you up and say, hey, you know, we haven't talked in a while. How did your divorce go? Or, hey, are you feeling better? You've been looking bloated lately, you know? Or a monitoring spirit might be someone who goes and, you know, if you're a content creator, you put your stuff out there, maybe they go on there and they downvote you or something along those lines, or they skip your videos as fast as they can, but they still follow you. Or a monitoring spirit could be someone who goes and, trust me, you have them. Almost everyone has them. Sometimes we can be them ourselves, but maybe they go on social media and they follow a bunch of people that they went to school with just to watch, in their opinion, maybe their lives fall apart or something along those lines. So a monitoring spirit usually is there to watch and absorb and kind of take the energy from people. I know you've heard of energy vampire before,
yes,
but like a monitoring spirit would be kind of a true energy vampire in that when a monitoring spirit starts to get bored and feel low, the way that they uplift themselves is to go take someone else's energy.
Schadenfreude. Do you know what that is?
No, please explain.
Schadenfreude is the German word for when one feels better by delighting in other people's pain.
Yes, literally that. Literally that. So we've talked about how narcissists can be quite the buzzword, but narcissists can have monitoring spirits and have that feeling. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that it can be people with the best intentions that often end up being monitoring spirits. And I think one big qualifier is that they don't offer any of their energy back. So like if someone were to hit you up and say, hey, how was your breakup? Hey, how did the flooding in your kitchen go? Please tell me your negative tea, your bad news. I would like to hear it. It makes me feel nice. And then maybe you give it to them out of a social convention or just not realizing maybe that they are kind of sucking your energy in the situation. And then you might say something like, how have you been? And they say, oh, I've been fine. Why did you ask me so many questions about this bad thing that happened to me? What I have come to realize, I think, and part of the reason I like to wear this and for me, it provides some comfort is it's a reminder that some people are monitoring spirits, and the only thing they get from that interaction with you is for them. They're not really offering an exchange of energy, and they're not really offering
Reciprocity.
I
think that's important in relationships, whether it's a in-person relationship or online relationship. If there's not a back and forth, that's not really a relationship. Reciprocity is, I think, an integral part of relationships because there's a back and forth.
Right.
Not quid pro quo. That's different.
So how do you feel about, and I will bring this back to monitoring spirits, but there are codependent relationships, right? That lack reciprocity.
A relationships. Yes, they need each other.
They need each other, but still lack reciprocity. How does that happen?
How does that happen? Oh,
yeah.
Trauma bonding? I don't know.
Trauma bonding? I think probably more often than not, trauma bonding for sure. But yeah, there are, what makes someone think they need a candle blower outer or a monitoring spirit in their life?
Well, there's actually a theory on this. Have you ever heard of the drama triangle?
Yes.
Okay, so the drama triangle with the victim, the perpetrator, and the rescuer says that people get stuck in these roles. Not that we're choosing to do that at all. So nobody wants to be abused. But somebody who's grown up in a toxic environment of domestic violence might find themselves comfortable in a domestic violence relationship. And that's not to say that they wanted that to happen, but the familiarity is like gravitated towards. And then that feeling of like, maybe I don't deserve anything better because this is what I grew up with. And maybe I heard F you so much that I thought it was a term of endearment or whatever the case may be.
Or this is what love looks like. This is what a relationship looks like. I mean, there's so many reasons people get into that toxic situation. But I think, that drama triangle, that feeling like you are in your role. Now, if I were to move that over to thinking of that as something a little more spiritual, maybe something you could guard yourself from spiritually. And maybe they're not someone who just isn't necessarily only not providing reciprocity or all of the clinical possible terms for it, right? But they're a monitoring spirit, which I think can be a metaphysical thing. Someone who feeds off of that energy of being a hater, or even just being a watcher and kind of just getting that Schadenfreude, right? Maybe they don't necessarily hate you, but they enjoy watching
They enjoy watching you fail.
Yeah, watching you fail, what have you, that kind of thing. Or they're not doing anything to contribute to your success, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that those roles are pretty much the same in that scenario. And I think that's supported somewhat by the fact that, they'll talk to predators in prison, or they'll talk to, maybe people who have offended in predatory ways about how they have selected their victim. And those that have chosen to be honest with that have come out and said that they look for that victim mentality often. Are they looking down? Are they shuffling? Are they isolated? Do they have bad parents? Predators love lonely kids. Predators love bad kids.
Are they going to speak about it? Are they going to tell their friends?
Do they have someone to talk to? Do they have friends? Are they a loner? That kind of thing. So you end up in that kind of role, right? I think that a lot of the time those monitoring spirits attach themselves to people who are more inclined to be victimized from get, because if you had an abusive parent, you're more likely to have an abusive partner. If you had an abusive partner, you're more likely to have another abusive partner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
But I want to clarify that statistically, just because those may be statistics does not make them true for everyone.
That's all the time we have for today on Therapy Unlocked. Please join us next time as we continue the conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we continue the journey to unlock the mind, one conversation at a time.
I talk about today should be taken as medical, legal, or otherwise advice. This podcast is purely for education and amusement. That is it. That's the disclaimer.